If we can prevent it from the beginning, that is the key. Hey friends, Stephanie here with the Aeroponic Tower channel, and we have a big problem. So, I came out here to film some videos for my membership. And if you are a customer, if you use my link to purchase your tower or your tower garden supplies, you get access to the membership. And inside the membership, and I decided to go this route because what I have found is I get a lot of the same questions over and over and over again, and I love the questions, so always ask them. Please never feel like you're bothering or it's a stupid question. They actually are really, really helpful for me to know how to make content and what to make and how to organize it, because what I have found is with social media and with these platforms, some things get sent out, some things get buried in who knows where in social media abyss, and there's gaps in the information and it's hard to find the information. My YouTubes are long form. I do a lot of vlog style, lifestyle style, because I like to watch this kind of videos. It inspires me to live differently. So I like to create those kind of videos, but it's hard to just get some of the basic information sometimes that way. So in the membership, it's going to be a collection. It's an app and a Facebook group, and it's a collection of all the information. So if you need to know about tomatoes, it'll be in one spot. If you need to know about what we're going to talk about today, which is how to manage aphids, it'll be in one spot. It's just an easy way to have that information organized and collected for you guys. Now, if you're not a customer, that's fine too. There will be a paid option, and I'm going to keep the price very reasonable, so look out for that. It is coming very soon. It'll be tied to a Facebook group, and in the Facebook group is where I'm going to do lives, and the focus in the Facebook group is going to be growing food for the purposes of health and wellness. So not only are we going to grow the food, but I'm going to show you guys how daily, I do this on my Instagram stories a lot. I share when I come out here and harvest something, how I turn it into a meal and eat it, because that can be a new concept for people too. Swiss chard, for example, grows amazing on towers, but not everybody is used to eating Swiss chard or knows how to eat Swiss chard or even knows why they should eat Swiss chard. So that's the kind of content that'll be in the Facebook group, along with tower garden growing tips. And if you ever have a problem with your tower, that'll be the place where you can upload a picture and say, hey, what is this and what do I do? So I can help you guys along the way. My goal is to offer you guys whatever I need to make you successful, not only growing food this way, but staying passionate about growing food this way. I'm on my 3rd year with Aeroponics. I'm gonna kick off my shoes. It's time to ground. And I am on my 20 plus, probably 21 year, 21st year of growing food other ways. So I've been growing food for a long time, and it's because my why and my passion for it is so big that even when there's struggles, which is what we're gonna talk about today, that I can still have a smile on my face and it's not overwhelming, and I don't have to throw everything away and put my tower in the garage and give up and fall victim to spending a lot of money on something that's now just wasting away in the garage. So be on the lookout for the membership. Definitely use my link if you are interested in buying a tower, because there are massive benefits to being a part of the membership and a part of my community, and it just allows me to stay in contact easily with people versus just random people across the world. I have people all over the world who contact me, and it can get very overwhelming. So I like to have my customer base in a special spot so we can communicate easily. So what is our problem? Aphids. I get aphids in this garage, and I know some of you guys struggle with them. They're just a part of gardening. It is the one thing I wish we didn't have to face as indoor gardeners, because when you don't have them, growing on the tower is like the most incredible experience ever. It's so easy. Everything's beautiful. You just take your food and you harvest it and you eat it. When you get aphids, it's something you have to deal with, and that's not always fun. But growing food this way is significantly easier than growing in the soil, and I can tell you that from lots and lots and lots of experience growing outdoors in the soil. And good things are hard. I'm looking at my Peloton bike, and I'm thinking about a class I took last night, and I've got to go to the gym today, and I don't want to do those things. I would rather focus on what I want to focus on, right? But it is the hard things that we do when we step into those that create huge value and have huge rewards. And that's what towers are. Towers are gardening, and we're going to come across things that gardeners have to face. And we are gardeners. We are tower gardeners, so we have some advantages, but we're still gardeners. So what happened is I let the aphids get out of control on my celery. Now, when you're growing indoors, there are foods you can grow that aphids aren't attracted to, so you can keep this under control. It's when you start to want to grow, like I grew an entire tower of celery, and that allowed them to just go and explode because they had a buffet. If I had one celery on this tower and it was having a problem, I can pop that celery out, and I'll show you what I'm doing with these, and I can clean it. And I could do that every month or so and keep it under control. I get aphids on these little mini cauliflowers that I grow, these baby cauliflowers. But you can see here these leaves, well, maybe you can. You can see here these leaves. They're small and they're airy and they're so delicious. I'm actually gonna eat this today as raw wraps. So it's easy for me to take my little vacuum, and I'll link that below, and just blow these off and keep it under control. I don't have any aphids on here right now because these don't get infested, because I can easily come over, blow them off, put eyes on them, blow everything down, wipe the base, and I'm done. Manageable. The biggest pest wins. Let me turn off this light. I like to say the biggest pest wins when it comes to aphids. We have to be the bigger pest. That's why I don't have problems with aphids in my outdoor gardens, because there are natural predators to them and they get rained on and it washes them away. So we're using that same technique, blowing them off, washing them off. I like to blow them off, it's a little easier. And just being the bigger pest. If I see one, I get rid of it. But sometimes when you're growing things, if you've got a lot of food in a small space, kind of jammed up, which is the case with my tomatoes. I've got a lot of tomatoes growing. My tomatoes get a specific aphid, and my celery gets a specific aphid. And those aphids don't mess with the other plants. It's interesting. So the ones that I get on my tomatoes just are on my tomatoes. Sometimes they'll be in my lettuce, but it's really easy to manage them. So I have had to find ways to deal with them, and I have some new systems in place I want to show you. But first I'm going to show you the craziness of these aphids on my celery. I knew they were bad, but until I took them outside and I took the top off and put it outside, and that's when I realized, oh my gosh, like total infestation. Now my celery's fine. I am not going to throw away my food. I've heard that recommended on groups before. Throw everything away, deep clean and start over. If you have aphids, you're probably always going to have aphids. So it's better to come at it with a plan from the beginning than to try and scrap everything, start over, and then end up in the same situation where you get them again and then you feel like you got to throw everything away for stuff that's wasteful. It's not necessary. My celery is coated with aphids and they're totally fine. My celery is fine. It's not compromised. If anything, it's actually more healthy, because when plants get pests and have to fight against them, they actually put off hormones and things to try and prevent those pests, and it makes the food healthier. So my celery's even healthier in my opinion, so there's no way I'm gonna throw it out. And then that cycle just kind of leaves you like starting over on a tower. I always teach interval planting because it keeps you in food and it keeps it exciting and it keeps you harvesting. When you have to start over and you're in that purgatory waiting space where everything's little and you're just waiting, it can become very discouraging. So we want to avoid that. So I'm going to show you guys the aphids, and then I'm going to show you 2 products that are natural that I have found that are working great, and explain how to use them. And I actually think it's a great option to use from the beginning, whether you have aphids or not. There's one product on here that I would recommend definitely starting, actually both of them personally, so that you don't get into the situation where you even have them. If we can prevent it from the beginning, that is the key. So let's go take a look at the craziness. And I want to show you my tomato tower, because I can take my celery. What you're going to see is that I'm took my tower outside, and I'm gonna clean my celery a very specific way to get it back under control. And I can do that with celery, but I can't do that with tomatoes. So I'm gonna show you how I've gotten my tomatoes back under control. My tomatoes were as bad as my celery just a couple of weeks ago. Totally infested. Just incredible infestation. Let's go take a look. And before I go out there, the lighting is gonna be crazy on here. I also wanna say, like, if aphids are, if that bothers you, the thought of aphids, there are foods you can grow on a tower that don't get aphids. They don't mess with Swiss chard. They don't mess with my beets. There are things, I'm trying to think what else they don't mess with. They don't mess with my herbs. Lots of things that they just don't mess with. I'm trying to think of what else. They don't mess with my radicchio. They don't mess with my green beans. They can get on peppers, but peppers are like the baby cauliflower. They're really easy to manage there. I just wanted to say, like, there are things you can grow to avoid them if you just want to avoid this topic altogether. For me personally, the food's worth the hassle of it, and it's not that big of a deal. So let me take you outside and let's look at this craziness. All right, so the lighting's probably it's really sunny out, which I'm so grateful for, but the lighting's gonna be pretty bad for this. So just bear with me. I will bring things into better lighting, but I wanna show you what I've done. I took the top off my tower and I took it out here to hose it off. That's usually what I do when I feel like they've gotten past the point where I can just blow them off with a little blower. I do it with all my towers. About once a month, I like to just take them outside, the tops, and spray everything down. I like to do it anyway because we're growing in a garage that's kind of dirty and dusty, and it's like growing outside, where outside you get the rain that kind of cleanses your plants off. Not quite as necessary if you're growing in your house where things are nice and tidy, but I like to just kind of dust them off, hose them off, let them get a little sunlight, and then I put them back in. So that's what I did, and then that's when I realized we need to go an extra step to get this under control, and then we need to start fresh with a plan to prevent it from happening again. So here's my tower. Typically just hose things off. If there's any bad leaves, I take those off. I found a good one. So I'm gonna see if I can get you guys close enough to see this. And this is actually better than some of the ones I washed off. There were some, you cannot see the aphids that get on celery. They're the color of celery. But when I started to get them wet, it was, I don't think you're gonna be able to see them. I won't even be able to show you. When I started to get them wet, it was literally like the entire leaf. Yeah, you guys won't be able to see that. Was aphids. I couldn't even believe it because I couldn't tell. I was checking on these regularly. They are just super camouflaged in celery. So let me show you how we deal with this to get them clean, and then what we can do to prevent this even happening, or definitely make it, like, I can't prevent it now because I'm past the point of return. There's aphids in this garage. There always will be because it's not sealed, and there's animals, and it's like right outside nature here, and nature comes in here. So I have to just create barriers is what we're gonna do. We're gonna create a barrier and then an extra prevention tool, and these need to be done early on from the beginning stage. So I need to get this under control, and then I need to go into my barrier and protection plan. All right, so here is what I'm doing. I've got a bucket, and I am putting my, oh, I took the roots off of that one. I'm putting my celery upside down in the bucket. What I did was turn it over, and it's soaking. Celery has small roots. It's not a big deal to take these out. And I'm just gonna let them soak. I added a product in here, which is gonna be our first product we wanna use. And I already can see thousands of aphids just from that one celery that's upside down. So I'm gonna let it sit for 10 minutes. I don't wanna go longer than that because we don't want to stress the plant. I'm gonna let it sit, and then I'm going to hose it off really well on a gentle spray, and then I'm gonna put it back in the tower. And I'm gonna do that with all of them. Yes, it's a pain because I'm growing 50 50, 20. I'm growing like close to 50 celery. So for me, it's a big job. Most people aren't growing 50 celery, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal if you had 5 of them. But 50, it's just gonna be a process throughout the day, no big deal. I am soaking it in a little bit of this garlic barrier. And the reason is I want to encourage those aphids to let go so that they float. Sometimes they will cling on even underwater and then they can still survive. So I'm trying to encourage them to let go. We do this inside by adding a little salt. If you're cleaning your lettuce or something, you want to make sure there's no pests on it, especially when I would grow in the soil and we would get slugs. You would soak it in a little salt water so things release. So it's the same idea. I just don't want to use salt because I'm actually going to put these plants back in. We're not going to eat them right now. We're just going to continue to grow. So this, and I just did maybe 3 tablespoons for that bucket you saw, not some sort of formula you need to follow. You do mix this 1 part garlic juice is what I'm going to call it, to 9 parts water, and then you're going to spray it on your plants. This is a barrier. It actually makes the plants taste bad. It's going to smell strong for about 30 minutes and then it goes away and it's totally fine. It's all natural. It doesn't harm you. It doesn't change the way our food tastes to us, but it does something. There's a chemical in there that releases that pests don't like. So if an aphid lands on your plant and starts to have dinner, it's going to be like, whoa, not my favorite food, and leave. The reason we have them is because we get these beautiful towers in our house. There's no predators to these aphids in our home, and they have a buffet. So we need to make the buffet not so pleasant for them. So this is step 1. I am doing this moving forward. Every single seedling gets a dose of this before it goes on the tower. And then anytime I add new plants, I'm doing this. And then I'm personally doing like a cleanup version of this, like every 2 weeks, spritzing everything down just to make sure just to make sure everything's covered, because I have a problem in this garage. So this is an amazing product. It will be in the description below. I have a lot of towers. And I have found spray bottles with your hands, they always break. So I like these little half-gallon sprayers. I'll link these below, and so you can just mix it up in here. Now this may be overkill. If you just have 1 tower, you can probably just find a good spray bottle. It's just 1 part garlic to 9 parts water, and you're good to go. Again, spray it on your babies before they go in your tower. Do a tower maintenance every couple of weeks. I would do this regardless of if you have pests or not. It will just help you to not get in this situation. Now the next product is Arbor, and I will put this in the description below as well. And this is a bioinsecticide. I use bioinsecticides outside to deal with the little caterpillars that can wipe out a garden very, very quickly in the spring and in the fall and in the summer. I do this when I'm outdoors, and I've talked about this before, I just spray it over the top, and you can use this. I'm going to switch to this. I've been using Thuricide. It's the same thing. And then I just spray it over the top, and the white moths that lay those troublesome caterpillar eggs on your food, I have found, I don't know if they just can sense it and they don't lay them, if it just deals with the eggs. I don't have to go in every single plant when I'm doing this outside. I just have to create a barrier over the top. Now indoors, where I have aphids, I've had to do this every 3 days because the aphid life cycle is very rapid, and we need them to break down. It tells on the website, it's breaking down their exoskeletons, and it causes them not to be able to shed and different things like that. Basically just gives them a virus and makes them sick. So it's fungal. But it's not harmful to pets. It's not harmful to us. So this is how I've got my tomato tower. All right, this is how I've gotten my tomato tower that was completely infested under control. Okay, so I'm using this every 3 to 5 days, and it says on the instructions how much you add. I've been adding, I think it's like, I don't remember off the top of my head. Just follow the instructions on how much to add, because it will depend on your container. I'm using, again, one of these. And so it's taking me like every 3 to 5 days for 2 weeks. And they are way, way more under control. They were completely out of control before. So it is working. It's just going to take time. I've got 20 tomato plants on here. Again, most people aren't going to have to deal with this on such a large scale. And you can probably get it under control a lot faster than I can because of that. So let's talk about the plan. I kind of threw a lot of information out there, but this says that as soon as the plants pop up, you give them a spray. So that means as soon as we germinate and take our lid off, we can give them a nice barrier spray. And then I'm gonna do it again before they go into the tower. And then this says every 12 to 14 days. So bi-weekly. Spray your plants really well with this. And I just got on the website to verify my thoughts. It says once you get them under control, your aphids, or to keep from ever having them, you spray the arbor every 2 weeks. So I'm actually going to taper those. So if I'm doing garlic 1 week, I'm gonna make sure the arbor is set for the next week. Does that make sense? So that I'm not having to spray both at the same time. So that's the plan. I would do this from the beginning. I think the key is to start off in the right plan and to have a plan. If you do not have aphids, I highly recommend doing this anyway, because it only takes one apple or one bunch of greens from the farmer's market or a pet going outside. That's all it takes to get an aphid in your home. They travel in, they can come in very easily. When there's food shortages for them, like in the winter months and in the fall, that's why they're more prevalent in the fall and in the spring, because there's not as many predators and there's not as much food. They migrate, they can fly. So they're very adaptable. They're little demons for sure. But we can handle it. And if it does get out of control, don't scrap it all. Do the work, do what I'm doing. I'm dunking all these plants, and then I'm gonna get my plan in place to manage them. Thanks for joining me on this video. I wish it was not one about a pest, but it's the reality of gardening, and it's worth it. It's worth the effort. See you on the next video.